Alrighty. What's going on, everybody? And long time waiting. I've been meaning to put out the content, but here we go. This is our Monday. This is our WWE Monday Night Raw, NXT and Friday Night SmackDown recap. And for the week of, I believe it's ending of 325, leave it in 323. We're recovering for, we'll recap the the week of, like I said, of 323 for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. First things first, we're gonna go ahead and dive into Monday Night Raw with a few things that happened. Of course, the build up to WrestleMania was also leading up with Becky Lynch and AJ Lee as they get their confrontation about ready to happen at Mania for AJ to defend her women's Intercontinental Championship against Becky Lynch, aka the greatest of all time. Should be a great matchup since we had them face at I believe it was No Way Out for AJ to win. So this is a matter of a rubber match in order to claim who's the definitive best women's athlete per se. If you go with Becky, I'm not too upset if you're a Hill fan. If you go with AJ just off of nostalgia, then I understand. But it is going to be a good matchup to be looking forward to. And there's also more in the lineup to be built up. There's also Penta, who's defending his Intercontinental Championship against Dominic Mysterio. I believe he will have a Judgment Day at ringside. So of course you're kind of expecting him to maybe pull through, but we're going to see. Um, Another thing that was also added was the match I think that a lot of people were hyped up for. It's Obafemi confronting Brock Lesnar once again. And for the second straight week in a row, Obafemi has dropped Brock Lesnar via clothesline outside the ring. Rather, if you want to say Brock is not ready, or if you feel that this might be the one to dethrone Brock, then there's a really good official chance that it can happen. And literally, you might see the ruler in charge of WWE for the remaining years to come. And who knows where it lies next. It lies next for Brock Lesnar and Oba. I feel like the potential of Oba versus like major stars that are still heavy hitters or heavyweights that are still in the WWE can be highly potential, rather against him and Sheamus or him and Drew McIntyre. There's a potential of where it can go. Again, these two I feel like are one of the main draw phases, but Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi is going to be it's going to be one of the talked about matches. I'm going to say for the WrestleMania weekend on the 18th to the 19th. And again, Brock Lesnar got flattened and dropped out of the ring. So this builds more as nostalgia for the matchup. So hopefully we do get to see more in the weeks build up as it goes on. And also next, as unfortunately Paul had his undoing with that segment. So when Brock left, he had the business that he had to finish up with Seth Rollins, who still has been attacking him week to week. Seth, who made it pronouncedly known that he is going to take out, that he will take out Paul Heyman by any means. So again, Paul for uh orchestrating one of the most dastardly schemes I've ever did. Drawing Paul ended up drawing Seth out, which Seth came out on top of the announce table, which Paul ended up going ahead and Paul ended up filing literally a PFA against Seth for the storyline value, which then he told Seth his wife is going to leave him, and Paul's the biggest troll that there is, and he really knows how to draw the storyline more all the way out. And Paul definitely made that a lot more of a personal touch. I know him and Seth probably had so much value in order to go ahead and bring that. And literally, Paul, like I said, Paul and Seth, they bring an interesting climate to the match. I wanted to see who will be the opponent to face Seth Rollins during Mania. Like I said, if he is officially medically clear as they are written in the story. And this is going to be like, again, one of those very good. I feel like it's going to be a very great storyline to tell overall, long-term storytelling with both not only promoter and competitor, doing a really great matchup. Who will be the person to face Seth? That probably be remain to be seen if he is officially medically clear. So that is the other thing. The next segment was the Lyra and Bailey are still on the hunt to find their WrestleMania picture just to get on the card. So again, there's going to be they're really still trying to fight for a spot via Mania. So they will be facing the Kabuki Warriors, which they had ended up securing a win against Kyrie's Bailey on Kyrie Zane with the Rose Plant. After the fact, there was a tongue lashing. We're on to see where the Kabuki Warriors go again with Asuka doing her stick and Kyrie Zane doing her stick. It adds a lot more implement to the story, especially because this is the faction that was a part of Damage Control. So it does get interesting to see where the things go from now at this point. But again, Bailey and Lyra, they will be facing I'm sorry, but they will be facing the Kabuki Warriors, like I said, next week in order to determine the number one contendership matchup. Next as also was the Usos versus the Vision, which was Logan Paul and Austin Theory. Again, Bronson Reed unfortunately is out for a longevity of time. So Austin Reed and Logan Paul had a number one contendership match against the Usos, which the unfortunate thing with Paul throwing the brass knucks in the ring, LA Knight had came back and caused the interference, which then threw the brass knuckles to Jey Uso, who we all know Jey Uso for the biggest crash out in WWE. He did what he did, got him disqualified, and unfortunately, the Vision will be facing the Usos for the tag team championships next week on 3:30 for Raw Raw for the WWE tag team titles. So it will be an interesting matchup. And we also had Grayson Waller facing Javon Evans. Of course, Grayson Waller always had wanted to be a part of Judgment Day. He always wanted to be a part of New Day, like how R-Truth wanted to be a part of Judgment Day. So you see the dream that he wants to accomplish. And unfortunately, he came up short against Javon Evans. The young OG has been showcasing a high amount of skill, so it's no surprise that he is going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if he be featured on the WrestleMania card sooner than beforehand. So again, congratulations to Javon Evans for showcasing his talents on the roster at such a high level. And again, guys, also to let you know, please make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let me know that you are interested in the Frank Greatness Wrestling podcast. so that way we can go ahead and still keep promoting more content. And again, we're going to go back to the week to week segments. So we're going to go and get to the last segment of the night. Roman Reigns and CM Punk. CM Punk entered the ring. He told it like how it was. This is just all business, but when I keep it business, strictly business, is just me. When you keep it business, you need help from your family. And that quote honestly had hit a lot of heads. Of course, Jey Uso from crashing out earlier was not was letting Punk know this ain't the day, this ain't the time, and when this is the place, we're gonna handle this. So now the Usos were in the ring. Of course, Punk struck Jay, and Roman Reigns had came out here and struck Punk, and unfortunately, unfortunately, it ended up with a weird, not a weird spot, but a different segment than what you would have thought. Jey Uso calling the shot for Roman, and Roman actually pulling the trigger. It kind of puts you in a loophole of who's realistically the the tribal chief at that aspect. But it made an interesting concept now with the Usos having to really stay out of Roman's business, but it did. And the night ended very, very chaotic. So Roman Reigns had speared and put CM Punk through an announce table via power bomb. And again, Roman versus Punk is going to go into Mania, and it's going to be a very, very interesting contest. Again, these guys promoting that they hate each other. Again, I am I am willing to see where this goes for both superstars. Again, they are both at the high caliber tier. So now willing to see where they take it to next. And again, guys, if you are, make sure you like, subscribe, and let me know you're into the Frank Greatness Wrestling Podcast. We're going to go right into our NXT segment for the week. And next, we also had again there was a rematch between Tatum Paxium versus Izzy Dane. Again, this is the rubber match. Going back to their long-standing rivalry with each other. Izzy Dane lost her women's North American Championship to Tatum, which then Tatum went ahead and defended her title on NXT this week against Izzy Dane, which then she had retained with the driver, and again, Tatum pulled through with the win, but when she was going up the ramp, there was somebody that was also waiting for her, Blake Monroe, who had made her presence known and that she wants to compete for the Women's NXT Television Championship, which could possibly be a really good matchup. Blake Monroe, who is coming off the fresh rivalry with her and Miss Parker. So again, this creates new storylines and creates new algorithm for more superstars to showcase. So now this also goes and now this also goes into another storyline that Tatum will have to go ahead and overcome Blake Monroe, and after Blake Monroe secured her win, this actually makes a really pretty interesting story going forward. Thea Hale. She was going to be facing Kalani Jordan. Kalani Jordan, again, also wants to go ahead and make a title run. I'm pretty much sure for the NXT Television Championship or via Women's Championship. There is a lot more to come with the NXT women's roster as far as the women's division. Again, Zarya and Sol Ruka has had unfinished business, so they had a talking point in the ring in order to discuss um going out to the next pay per view for where they will be facing each other, and also Wretched QCC competes against Fatal Influence, which Fatal Influence had ended up losing. And I believe there was also more going into the segments. Again, Fatal Influence has also been dominating most of the scene with capturing the Speeds Women's NXT Championship. Again, Kendall Gray has also been holding the women's NXT championship, which she had retained from both Zari and Soruka in a women's triple threat matchup. So again, we have a lot of high caliber matchups and high caliber people in order to go ahead and also face up against again Born Miles, who's the also the new men's NXT championship, who will figure out who he will be facing via in a gauntlet match, which will have a surprise entrance from an opponent this week. Again, if you weren't familiar and didn't run it back, it was the return of Johnny Wrestling. So he is actually trying to make a actual comeback. Um, I don't know how much of a comeback you want to call it because he fell down into the pinfall for the win. So he will be facing Born Miles for the NXT Television Championship. And next, uh, we have Tony D'Angelo. He will be facing Ricky Saints, and this is a opportunity for Tony D'Angelo to get back inside the title picture. I believe it's been a minute since we've seen Tony D having since he had the North American Championship. So with that, Tony D had ended up pulling up a win against against Ricky Saint, and he had added himself up to the matchup. So now going into Stand to Deliver, it will be a fatal four way with Tony D involved in the men's NXT Championship picture with him, Ricky Saint, and Ethan Page. So this will be a really great contest in order for all the comparison to go on ahead and get locked in. And Tony D'Angelo being involved now has really added another implement to the championship picture. And hopefully, like I said, it's been a while since Tony D'Angelo has won, but Joe Henry is their newly crowned champion. So that's another thing to see if they will actually take the title off Joe Henry this early, or will hand it maybe to Ethan Page or even back to Ricky Saint as they're both the heels. But Tony D is the champion could could transition well again. So and then we're also gonna go and we're also gonna go to more segments on the week. Of course, we had our WWE SmackDown going through the week. There was a lot going into that week leading up. Of course, we had questions about Randy Orton's reasons for the reasons of why he has done what he has done. So there is a question that a lot of superstars and a lot of people as me and myself had wondering why did Randy pull the stunts that he did with Cody Rhodes? Why did he attack Cody? A lot of questions remain. He is the Viper. He is going to let you know that first things first. If you want the best out of Orton, you getting the best. And so with that, an old friend of his had came out, Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder. If you are familiar, they have had a long-standing history. Again, Matt Cardona, who was trying to talk sense into Randy, found out that the Viper, there's no talking to the Viper once at that point. And Randy, as we all know, for the three most dangerous letters in the game, RKO. And then he literally went ahead and got taken out by a steel chair around his wrist, which Randy proceeded to stomp. Um, Again, Randy has been one of my favorite superstars. So if you do feel that Randy versus Cody will be the matchup, then I understand. Or if you feel that Roman versus Roman versus CM Punk will be the match, which one will be the more personal to take? Who knows? I'm gonna leave the question on here for y'all to ask. And as Sami Zayn tries to figure out where he is going to go as far as his WrestleMania picture, as his title, as the lane is closing for him, he is trying to ask himself, where do I go for next? Like most superstars, Trick Williams had gained the spot, even though he is a young superstar. Sammy being a veteran, it does add the implement of why Sammy could become heel now more and more. So with Nick Aldis telling Sammy that his WrestleMania picture is slowly closing. Um, again, Sammy took the opportunity for himself, which ended up wanting to go ahead and facing Carmelo Hayes, who had the United States Open Challenge. Which, if anybody was familiar, Carmelo Hayes is the one to take the title off Sammy back in January. Which then we also had this week Sami Zayn challenging Carmelo Hayes for the United States Championship, which Sammy took advantage of an opportunity from Trick Williams and captured the 1-2-3 and ended up winning the United States Championship. So Trick Williams will be facing Sami Zayn for the United States Championship. Pretty interesting matchup, like I said, because when Trick at first came on, his first person he trolled was Sammy. So and kind of culminates the whole storyline in its entirety. But again, Trick versus Sammy for the United States Championship could be a good matchup. They could probably throw more in the element of the matchup with throwing Carmelo Hayes back in there. Who knows? Give me a second, guys. All right. We're gonna see that for people to go ahead and put their poll on. But again, Cody, Cody, facing Orton is a full culmination of a story. So who knows? And maybe, like I said, y'all can. There's so much going into the women's championship matchup. Again, you have Rhea Ripley versus Rhea Ripley versus, I'm sorry, oh gosh, the Eye of the Storm, Jade Cardell. This is a storyline that has been building up for a while. Again, um, sorry, Rhea Ripley will be challenging Jade Cardell, which will be a really great matchup. I have a feeling of a powerhouse competition, maybe a nutritionist stamina. Um, I have a feeling maybe they might let G keep the title. My opinion. Again, Rhea is a proven champion beforehand in the WWE, so putting the title on her probably would still do her justice. Maybe so. Again, her and Rio, that tag team has been on the halt now since Rhea's single push for the women's championship matchup. And who knows, again, Jade Cardell and her can put on a show. That's still something to look forward to. And again, another thing is uh, Lash Legend and Nia Jax. The women's championship title picture has also become scrambled, so it's going to be seeing very well where it goes. Again, Julia Kendall, also Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. A lot of teams also with the Kabuki Warriors and the new tag team champions with Nia Jax and Lash Legends. They could ended up pulling a very impromptu matchup. Who knows? But again, there's going to be more to cover going on in the week to weeks. Again, guys, I will probably get back to my week to week segments. So I will definitely be returning with that soon this week. As far as the month of April is concerned. And again, guys, if you enjoy the Frank Greatness Wrestling podcast, please make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe, and please join me for next time for when you tune in. And then we'll also have more segments to go ahead and talk about. And then, like I said, guys, we're going to return to I've Heard Also Everybody. So I've also heard everybody. So we're going to return to the different segment from day to day during the week. So don't worry. And again, I will get back with you guys later on. And until then, please make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Until then, take it easy, guys. And please make sure you enjoy the Frank Greatness Wrestling Podcast.